Hi, on this video I'm going to talk about Animal Farm by George Orwell. Some of you might have read the book before, you're reading it again, maybe somebody recommended it to you and it's the first time you're reading it. First of all, Animal Farm is a story about political, economical, and societal issues. So if you are into those three, then you're going to like the book. I have the Spanish version, it looks like this, but I believe Penguin has the same version in English. So the story goes around the Russian Revolution, especially that one that happened during the 19th and the 20th century in Russia. Each animal represents a character in history. Some of the characters that comes to my mind right now are like Lenin, Trotsky, Nicholas. You remember the Anastasia story. Also, what's his name? The bourgeois and all the social classes. The Russian Revolution, the Bolsheviks, Romanov, the communists, the Soviets, everything is told in this 100-page story. What makes this story quite interesting is the fact that even though it was finished around 1940s, it wasn't published right away. There were a lot of issues for him to be published because he was telling the truth about what was happening in Russia. And the fact that he wrote it using animals and is very easy to understand this story, it was because he was trying to reach as much people as possible, and he was making it actually very accessible, like the language that the forming his the level of English or even the level of Spanish he's using is very easy to understand. And so he was trying to make it readily and available for even kids to start learning about this part of the history. I'm sorry. So the story goes around a human called Jonas who owns a farm, and the farm there are many animals. These animals are not happy with Jonas anymore because they felt that they were working very hard and they were not actually enjoying what they were doing in the farm. They were not enjoying from their own production. And so Jonas, the human, represents capitalism, represents the bourgeois, right, at the time. For example, the Romanov, and maybe other important characters in history in the Russian Revolution. Then the pigs, who were the animals, who were compared to the rest, the most intelligent, they took over and they planned against the humans. They say, we're going to fight against them, which is Jonas. And so the pigs, in some sort, represent also the bourgeois, represent those people who were ambitious for power, who supposedly were helping others, but they were also very clever in manipulating the rest of the people. And so let's remember that in the Russian Revolution, when Nicholas was fighting, I don't remember exactly what was the war, but he was fighting against somebody. Eventually, society was going into a very bad situation economically. For example, there wasn't enough flour. And so women were rising themselves because and making lines and protesting against the government because they couldn't feed their families. So when Nicholas sent the soldiers to fight against them, they refused because they said that it was right, right? And so even the soldiers rose against him. Eventually things changed, and the group of Soviets, which they started like that, became also the Bolsheviks. And from the Bolsheviks, Lenin came in, and then Trotsky. Actually, he was part of the other party. He wasn't part of the Bolsheviks. He was part of another group. I don't remember the name. He then went and support Lenin. Lenin was, let's pretend, the pig, right? He was calling all social level, well, not all, I want to say the low and the middle class. He was aiming for the proletariat, as they're called, the working class. He was aiming for them. He was advocating for them. But eventually, once they reach into power, I mean, of course, they became ambitious. They start seeking more stuff. And so they were in some way manipulating the people. They were painting as communist is good, communist is actually making everyone equal. It's giving everyone the opportunity and the access to food, access to materials, access to healthcare, access to like so many things that these people maybe in the past didn't have access to. Um, but then also the pigs in the story, they install themselves and they were the ones creating the laws, and all the animals, the rest of the animals, they used to be part of a voting system, but then eventually these laws were being changed by magic. Like they weren't any more votes, they were just told that things have changed and that's it. And so the way that George Orwell represents the Russian Revolution, the Russian history in this short book is quite interesting because you can see how things are changing gradually. You can see how the difference between different type of governments, the bourgeois, the socialist, the communist, you're better. Like it's easier to understand this, especially if it's something that maybe you're not into, but you're willing to learn. This is a good book to start. I didn't know that much about Russian Revolution as far as I remember from junior high school, but this book inspired me to learn more and understand better the history of Russia, and I think it was very interesting. George Orwell also has another book that maybe you might know about it. It's called 1984, and apparently it's really interesting. I cannot tell you what is it about because I'm not sure. I just know that it's something also about the government controlling the people, blah blah blah. So um, again, give it a shot. Write some comments down there if you want and tell me if you liked it or not. If you have any comments about my video, feel free also to put them in there. I used to be known by Olive and Caroline, but I changed my name to Mexicana Bordo. So I'm going to put my link down there for you to follow me on Instagram because I give some book reviews down there, and I recommend them for you to take them when you travel. This is a very short story and very easy to carry. It doesn't wait. Um, very interesting. So have a great night. Bye.